Hey, everybody. Welcome to Steve Couper's podcast for aspiring real estate investors. In each episode, we connect with seasoned investors and industry subject matter experts who are eager to share their experiences and tips for success in investing in real estate. So today, I am super excited because for Steve Couper's podcast number 12, I have the profound pleasure of speaking with man whose journey in investing began in 2016 when he joined the Canadian real estate educational company called Keyspire. While there, he learned multiple ways that you can invest and create powerful partnerships, networks, and ventures. He is now a full-time real estate investor with multiple properties spanning across North America. He's got units across North America, including a multitude. He's used a multitude of strategies, including but not limited to multifamily investing, buy and hold, multi-units, housejacking, and BRRRRs, JVs, and private lending. And as of now, his company, NSE Real Estate, focuses strictly on the aforementioned multifamily investing technique. As his experience in the field grew, so did his ingenuity. And now his regimen the regimen he uses revolves solely around his preferable form of execution. He is the co-founder of NSE Real Estate Business, where he specializes in U.S. value-add real estate opportunities. He's the VP of Investor Relations. He's an expert at raising capital. He's also a platinum certified recording artist, lending his drumming talents to Dallas Green's album Little Hell. He recently recorded and produced an album with HGTV's host Scott McGilvery, as well as the theme song to his new show. He's a singer, a songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist, and my guest today is the first person to greet me when I began my real estate investing journey. The strategist who welcomed me, helped me answer the multitude of questions that popped into my head. He's helped me on my journey before I even knew I was on one, and he's continued to be there as my friend and sounding board ever since. A fun fact, he holds the record as the only man to ever propose to his wife in a Tim Hortons using a honey cruller as a ring. Yes, indeed. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Nick Skalkos. Nick, thank you.
What an intro. Oh my God, Steve, thank you so much. That was one of the best intros ever. I love you. So proud of where you've come. So glad to be a part of your journey. And I'm having a great time watching you grow, my man. And I'm honored to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I hope I didn't get anything wrong as I stuttered through that.
It's great. I'm not picky. And that was impressive. Yeah, I learned a lot about myself as well.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself first before we get into some questions?
Yeah, I'm located in Nova Scotia. I moved here about 3 years ago. My wife and I moved here because of the waterfront affordability. It is absolutely beautiful here in Nova Scotia. A lot of people ask if we moved here because a lot of our properties are here, but we do not. We have people that manage our properties, and we just simply moved here because it's beautiful. So I'm based out of Nova Scotia. I'm mainly investing in real estate. I'm also a real estate coach with Keyspire, and I'm producing music currently again and trying to simplify my life. I'm currently living in one of our renovations as we're Airbnb or short-term renting out our principal residence, which is a really tough thing to do from a mindset perspective, right? Because like this is your home, this is where you live. And all of a sudden it's like, well, it's not anymore. It's an investment property, and you're sort of had to go through that mindset of, like that emotional detachment and all that. But I'm proud of us for doing that because you gotta compromise in this field, and that was one of the compromises, one of the many compromises that we made and will continue to make. So I'm just fortunate that we're in that zone where we're in that mindset where we can just be like, okay, we need to pivot. So let's remove emotion out of this and let's pivot. And yeah, and that's why I'm living in one of my renovations here. So whenever I buy a place, I'm always like, okay, this is a forever home. Like we're going to live here forever. But 3 years later, we always end up moving or selling it, which is great because I'm so glad that, I moved from Ontario here to Nova Scotia, and I want to discover more places here in Nova Scotia. I mean, you can buy $100,000 home here all day long. It's crazy. We bought one actually for 63,000, 2 bedroom, Parsboro, Nova Scotia. Beautiful little fishing village. And it's like stepping back into time, man, and buying, I'm looking at a $250,000 home right now with the most friggin' epic views you've ever seen. Unbelievable views. 250K, like, come on. Are you kidding me? So I want to keep exploring Nova Scotia that way by like collecting property, right? Like buying these $100,000 homes or $200,000 homes on the seaside and just living in it. And then, and then moving out and renting it out or something, but it's fun. It's really fun. So that's where my headspace is at right now.
Yeah, I love the real estate that you see out there in Nova Scotia. It's like you say, panoramic views that are just unbelievable. The architecture takes you back in time, right? So there's some beautiful homes, there's some beautiful scenery, and I love visiting your home that where you were now renting out. Actually, having a chance to see that, so I think
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that home's quite nice. People are making memories, leaving 5-star reviews. So now that home makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So, let's tell us a little bit about your journey. You began renting out a suite in your basement, I think, if I recall correctly, and that's evolved into a foray recently with 144 units down in Texas. That's quite that's quite a growth, right? Tell us about that evolution.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sorry,
Let's
Reader's
let's
Digest. Reader's
you know what
Digest.
I think people would find beneficial if I start with how I started, I
Yeah,
think. Because if I explain what I'm doing now, it's just so like what, right? But if you know, it started from a feeling of being house poor, from owning a home but getting further in debt and not knowing how I was going to get out of this debt. I'm sitting on this beautiful home. I got all these rooms that I don't use. And I'm watching this show called Income Property. Now I'm a musician. So, I mean, watching a renovation show is about the extent of it in regards to doing a renovation. I'll watch someone do a renovation, but that's about it. And this show was really inspiring to me because, well, not only was the host like basically, here's the difference between that show and every other HGTV show is that Income Property show was you're in trouble, you're sitting on a gold mine, you can get help, you can get a renter in that basement that you apparently it doesn't look like livable right now, but trust me, he's like, we can do it. You got two options. You got option A and option B. And he was basically helping these people whereas other HGTV shows were just like, hey, like new countertop, look at this view, right? And it was just like renovating. It just seemed a little privileged. Where this one was like he's helping people put in renters there. And I was just like, damn, like that's me. Like I've got a side entrance. I've got a bathroom down here. I'm like, I could do this. And but I was using it as a studio at the time, and I'm a musician. I was producing music, right? And so that was a huge sacrifice that I wasn't exactly willing to make until I saw him come to town and talk about real estate investing. There was a Keyspire free event. So my wife and I went. I dragged her out reluctantly to watch Scott talk about how he started investing in real estate, which was in Guelph, Ontario, and he would use the student loans. And rather than renting out apartment, he would purchase a home with other people's money and have his friends move in. And he was living rent free. And I'm sitting in my chair listening to the story, and I'm just like, damn, man, that is pretty good. And like by the time he was 25, he had like 25 rental units. So I dragged Sarah there, but at the end of it, she was like, you're doing this thing, right? Because Scott was offering an opportunity for us to purchase a Keyspire membership. And I was just thrown off at the sale. I'm just like, hey, like I just came here to listen to this guy talk, and all of a sudden I got to buy something, right? And I was reluctant, man. I was not the Nick you're talking to right now at all. I was a different guy. And my wife made me sign up to the Keyspire membership. And I was really reluctant, really hesitant. To this day, the staff were just like, man, you were dark and negative and hesitant and skeptical. Like I was all those things, right? But once I dug into that 3-day program and I dug into the courses and I started running the numbers, like I put my head in the books and everyone laughed at me. No one thought I would ever do this. Like I'm in a room with real estate investors and I'm the least likely person you would choose to be successful. And I freaking love that, by the way. That's amazing. That's my MO, right? Just come up from out of nowhere because nobody knows the perseverance that I've had to deal with to get to where I'm at and all of the hard work I had to get to achieve the crazy achievements I've achieved in my music world. Like that, there was some hard stuff there, right? You just kind of just see this dude with long hair. And I don't look like that guy at the back of the bus with the suit, with the clean haircut that's offering you a great mortgage. Like I don't look like what you would think of a real estate investor, which is why I love doing these programs so that I can share with people like you can do this. Real estate's highly leverageable. Whatever you don't have, you can leverage it. And that's exactly what I did. So I did the courses, I put my head down, and I didn't make a move until I completed everything. And the confidence that I had at that point was high. I thought I knew everything about real estate investing. Obviously, I did not, but I really did. So I decided to convert my single family home into a duplex. But not only that, I decided to move into the basement with my wife, Sarah, who's really cool. And we rented out the upstairs to a nice family. And that mortgage alone, like that rent basically covered most of the mortgage. And that was my first experience of having that financial noose sort of loosen around my neck, right? The monthly payments just started easing because someone else was gone all day working to pay for my mortgage. And that was absolutely incredible. So I was just like, we need to do this again. So I ran the numbers. I was looking at places and everything around me was too expensive. And I'm sure everyone here can relate with that. It's really expensive around where you are. So I expanded my parameters. Around 1 year after joining Keyspire, I purchased another single family home and converted that into a duplex. But the thing is with that home is that I didn't have the down payment. I didn't have the money for the renovations. I didn't have money for the mortgage coming out at the first of the month. And I hadn't accepted offer on this house. So I'm just kind of like shitting myself, right? I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I ran the numbers. It was a solid deal. I knew it was a solid deal. And so I presented it to the community, the Keyspire community. And I had no experience. People didn't know who I was. And it was really hard reality, like raising capital. But there was a colleague that I was working with that was looking to lend out, do a private note. And because he was looking to lease a BMW that was going to cost $500 a month. So if he lent me $50K, that would cover the cost of him leasing the BMW. So he gave me money. He was the first private money lender for me. And I went ahead and jumped into that house at 5% down and used whatever I could with that money for renovations, convinced the contractor to get paid at refinance, moved in tenants before the rent came out, and boom, there I was in a house without any of my own money, convinced the contractor to get paid later, tenants upstairs paying my mortgage, and here we were in this place. So I was like, this is cool. Like, let's keep doing this. But the problem is the qualifying. When you qualify for a single family home, like it's always based on your income, your credit score, your debt service coverage ratio, and it's very difficult. It's very hard, and I absolutely despise the process of qualifying for a residential mortgage. And what I mean by residential mortgage is anything 4 units and lower, 1 unit, duplex, triplex, fourplex. It was really tough. So what I decided to do is to get other people to qualify for me because I was no longer qualifiable. So I would identify a property and I had to expand my parameters and get out of my zone of Ontario. And once I had Canada as a canvas rather than my central located area, like all of Canada was now an option, I started finding a lot of properties. Brought these properties and opportunities to other investors, like-minded investors in my community, and started partnering with them. And so then they would go and qualify for the mortgage and bring the money, and then I would run the asset and do everything else. And that kind of created a bit of a problem as well, because now I'm asking my financial partners to qualify for a mortgage, and they're going to run into a wall too with their ratios. Like, what if they want to buy a cottage in a year's time, or what if they want to do a refinance on a reno on their home, and the banks are telling them no because you got this property with Nick, so you can't. So I discovered multifamily investing at that point, and which is 5 units and up. And the first time I talked to someone at the bank about qualifying for a commercial residential mortgage, which is 5 unit and up, it was a entirely different conversation from a conversation you'd have with a mortgage broker for a residential mortgage. I like went from talking to someone that is not the decision maker, they're doing what they're told, and they're all bad news, to like Tony from the mafia or something. It's just like, yeah, what do you need, man? Let me check this out. I'll call you back. And he calls you back with a verbal. And I honestly was just like, wow, I can hear this guy chewing on his food. I hear a baby in the background. He just told me over the phone he's going to give me $500,000 or something. Like, it was entirely different conversation. So that's what I was looking for. Like, I was just been told no by the banks so many times that I was just looking for someone to be like, yeah. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, give you a mortgage. I'm like, you didn't even ask me for my income. It was crazy. In 2021, when COVID was like, ravaging the world, I was trapped in our house. Actually, in 2020, I started really digging into like, how do multifamilies work? How does this work? How do you underwrite them? And in 2021, I had no money coming in. So unfortunately, I had to collect CERB payments from the government just to get by. And Sarah was still teaching, and it was really rough, but I had time and I didn't have money. So I found opportunities. And in 2021, we purchased 8 apartment buildings across Canada. Oh, smoothie. Thank you. My wife delivering me goods.
Hi, Sarah.
And that was a game changer. So I was like, okay, so this is how we do it. So I identified multifamily properties. I would bring them up to the investors in the community. I would offer these opportunities to them, and basically I would then create the corporation, find the team, go walk through everyone through the finance or the mortgage qualification process, which is basically not on any of our incomes, which is, as I was mentioning earlier, it's just based on the income on the building. But you do need collateral, so everyone does need to have enough collateral for in the event of a default. So if you're getting like a $500,000 loan, everyone has to have a net worth equal to that amount in the event of a default, which is not likely, right? Which is why banks do it, because banks don't do anything that's risky. So that was it. I went from single family home, watching income property, to like converting single family homes into duplexes, living in the basement, and JVing on duplexes, fourplexes, moved up to 5 units, 6 units, expanded my parameters across Canada. 2022 was like, this is tough times here. Canada's getting really tough to do a value add strategy. So we were going to pivot strategies. But then we decided just to pivot markets, because you got 2 options. You can change your strategy, or you can just go to where returns are best. So we just did that. We went to where returns are best and started looking at the States. And I naively thought I was going to go to a boots on the ground with Marcin Drodes from M1 and learn everything about how to invest in the States, come back on that Monday morning and share everything with my team, and then go invest in the States. And I was naive. But I got to say something about naivety. You got to be a bit naive, because if you fully grasp and understand the shit that you're about to put yourself through, you probably won't do it. It's probably not rational. Like, there is an element to this where any rational person wouldn't do it to some degree. And that's very true. You gotta want it so bad that you're willing to do things that sometimes don't appear to be rational. And you hear things like that from really successful people. And I've experienced that as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's sometimes you got to do things that just seem really, really crazy. and naive, because that naivety takes you to a new place. And when you realize you've been naive, that's fine, because now you can correct it, but at least you're there. At least you got there, right? So I realized this is like, hey, like I'm not going to figure out how to invest in the States. And furthermore, that's not how to do things. This reminds me of a moment that I had when I was struggling as a musician. It's been 9 years with my band. I knew we were good. I knew we had a great show and we had great music, but I didn't have proper representation. So one day I found the guy. I'm like, you're my who. You're going to get me recognized. Like he's had a silver tongue covered in tattoos. Whenever he walked into a room, his presence was just like explosive, man. This guy, like you believed whatever he was throwing down. And I'm just like, you're my manager. So I went over to his house and I was just like, how are we going to do this? And he's like, no, 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 no. It's not how are we going to do this? It's who do we need to know? And he started writing down president of EMI, president of Warner, president of, like We Records. Like it was, he had names and he had people, and it wasn't how do we do this? It's who do we need to know? And that changed the game for me as a musician. After that, we ended up signing a major record deal with Universal Records. I've traveled the world with all my favorite bands, shared the stage with idols, literally platinum records, rock radio success, video radio success, you name it. And so when I was in this position with investing in the States as a Canadian, I was in the same position. I was like, how am I going to do this? And I recognized my mistake right there as I was asking the wrong question, because how am I going to do this is so much weight on your shoulder. And the stress of that is going to lead to paralysis and you're not going to do anything. So I caught myself and I was like, no, no, it's not how are we going to do this. It's who do I need to know? And for me, it was Marcin Drodes, the guy that was teaching the boot camp. Obviously, he knows what he's doing. So I'm like, that's my guy. Now, why would he want to invest with me? Well, that's a whole other topic that we can talk about. But basically, I knew what my value add was, and I had it down, and it was just simple. This is my value add. Do you need that? Answer is yes, and here we are.
There you go. There you go. I love it. So you've actually helped me segue into the next question about raising capital. Because I was thinking about that evolution where you realize you can't go it alone after a certain point. You're capped out by the banks. You're now an expert at raising capital and corporate structure and partnerships. And I think that that's something that my audience would like to know more about. I'd like
Yeah.
to actually talk to you about that. How important, I guess, networking is in the process of raising capital. And what do you think are the key factors that potential investors are going to be looking for when they decide to invest in a project? How do you entice them with that?
Yeah, people want to know, who am I investing with? Why am I investing with them? Why this market? Why this asset class? Why you? And the most important question isn't the returns, it's how am I getting my money back? That's the biggest question. So the best way to raise capital is to attract it. It's not to chase it. And how you do that is you create thought platforms like podcasts or webinars like this, or you do reels, social media reels or videos, anything like that, where you establish yourself as an authority in the space. And what you want to do is you want to just add value. So you never want to ask anyone for anything. You just want to say, hey, did you know that, you can use your RSPs for real estate investing? This is how. And you just drop that on someone. And eventually you keep dropping value add info. People will trust you and like you. And that's what you need. You need that trust. You need that like. You need to have a good deal. But the deal isn't, that's where people make the mistake, is they just feel like they need the good deal. But really, people are investing in you. It's not the deal they're investing in. So if you get to a certain point of raising capital, you should be able to raise capital without even having a deal. You can just start collecting names and being like, let's raise some capital and start a fund, right? Yeah, so that's one of the most important things. In regards to networking, I mean, there's different approaches you can take to to real estate investing, or sorry, raising capital. And not my way isn't necessarily the only way. Like I know people who don't network. They meet other business owners. They, they find people that have just recently sold businesses. They find people that are sitting on money. I know a guy that looks for business names on the side of dump trucks. He's like, some of the owners still have their phone numbers right on the side of the door there. Just call them. That's one approach. What I've done is I've really spanned my net out, and I'm like, I want to meet everyone, not just the people who are going to invest with me. I want to meet everyone, because you never know who's going to invest with you later on in life. And in order to do that, yeah, you got to network, and networking is extremely important, in my opinion, because you got to let people know what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're looking for, and what it is that you're offering, and what your value add is, and how you can help solve their problem. And networking is the best way to do that. So, and that could be, doesn't necessarily need to be at a real estate event, although you're more likely to find your like-minded investor there. It could be at a supermarket, man. It could be at a birthday party, right? It could be at a swim meet or something, a barbecue. Could be anything like that. The point is that you show up, people know who you are. That's important. How do you do that? Thought platforms are a good way to do that. Podcasts, webinars, stuff like that.
Perfect. What are some common mistakes new real estate investors make when they're trying to raise capital? What do you think are the mistakes that others can learn you can share?
Oh yeah, there's so many. First of all, they don't have a clear projection on, what the projections are. Like often I see someone just posting a price of something and being like, hey, who wants to invest with me? This property is like 250,000. That means absolutely nothing to me. That's a consumer mentality when you're just like, what's the price? How much does it cost me? That's not how you do it. What you want to show is, hey, it's like, here's an opportunity. Here are your returns. So now I've got, okay, so you're not just like, it's not about the cost, how much it's going to cost you. It's like, what am I going to make? So that's the first thing, is that people need to be super clear about that, about what the returns are. And the second mistake I see is that when people do that, which is great, is that they post these returns like online, which is not good. Like you can't do that. You're breaking a lot of security laws by doing that. So you want to keep those projections on the DL. You want to do that. Basically, this is how it should be. You're adding value constantly. You've got an opportunity once in a while, you share your opportunity, but you just be like, hey, I've got, I'm working on my 12 unit in Edmonton. Did you know that Edmonton's got a vacancy rate of blah, 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 or employment rate of blah, blah, blah. By the way, if you'd love to learn more about this property, let me know. That's a good way to do it, but without, getting into hot water with the security laws. And you're letting people know what you're doing when you do that. And that's super important to do that as well. So let people know what you're doing. Constantly post on social media, and just be careful about, sharing your projections, but have those projections, have those numbers airtight. Be super conservative. That's another thing the mistake they make is that they'll use today's current market appreciation over a projection of 20 years. So let's say 11% market increase last year, and I'll see that 11% on that pro forma. I mean, that's very optimistic. So green, that's a red flag that like you're green. Also, just being optimistic with your numbers is a bad move. Missing things in your numbers is a bad move as well. And another common mistake, there's so many mistakes here. I'm just trying to pick the top one. A big mistake people make is they don't underwrite enough properties. So they've run the numbers on this one property, margins are tight, and they're just focused in on that one property. Meanwhile, there could have been a property yesterday or today or tomorrow that would have been more suited, but they're just fixated on this one property. So you really have to keep emotion out of it and keep that system of properties coming in over your desk. And getting your, parameters nailed in is super important as well. Another mistake I see people making is that they're too all over the place. They're doing storage units. They're doing short-term rentals. They're doing private loans. They're doing duplexes. They're doing they'll do everything. I'm like, oh, okay. That's a mistake, man. You got to hone in and be the person in this lane. I'm the multifamily guy, or I'm the short-term rentals lady. That's a big no-no as well. And there's so many mistakes that I see people make, but mistakes are good, okay? And it's okay to make them, and I've made them. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like, for anyone that's reluctantly holding back on raising capital, like, you can't. First of all, it's a huge responsibility, and the weight of the responsibility will keep you up at night. So it might not be for you, for one. And two, you really gotta hone in on what you want, because if you're looking at rehabbed properties, well, then that's going to require creative financing. But if you're looking at properties that have a debt service coverage ratio that banks like, well, then that's just an easy process. So if you choose, let's say, a rehab that could take you 8 months to complete, and you get all this creative financing, sure, the returns are great, but you could have, like, just bought 6 apartment buildings with a good debt service coverage ratio that the banks already liked, and there's something to be said about that. Had I kept with the strategy of just flipping those single family homes into duplexes, I probably would only have 4 or 5 or 6 right now. Whereas, opening up to multifamily, opening up the borders, erasing that US-Canadian border, that's really expanded my parameters and allowed me to offer investors opportunities where the margins of profit aren't so tight, like they are in Canada. It's really tough here. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just really tough. And then when you open it up to opportunities down in Texas, Arizona, Florida, the profit margins are a lot more easier to work with. I'm just more confident that I can get the investors the returns that I'm going to tell them that we're doing. So, yeah, there's no looking back now, man. I'm in the States, and I love it.
Do you still invest up in Canada, or is it all down the States now?
I have no investments since 2022 in Canada.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it. It's just for me, it's about designing my day and how I want it to look. Someone presented a duplex to me that doesn't align with my goals, because the duplex don't have the economies of scale to allow for. I mean, there might, but typically won't allow for a handyman, a property manager, all the things that I need to remove myself from it. If I've got to be the property manager, if I have to be selecting the tenants, if I got to be that guy, then I can't do it. That's just not. The returns mean nothing. It's just like, I need a team. When I've plugged into a giant team now, we're investing in Houston, Texas. I just have this one piece here that I need to take care of. And that aligns with my goals, because when I wake up, I don't want to be doing real estate investing. I want to be doing the things that I enjoy doing. I want to be working out. I want to be doing music and stuff. So it's not that I won't invest in Canada anymore, because it's tough and government overreach is insane. Taxes are wild, and there's so many regulations, and I can go on and on and on. It's not even that. It's more or less the way the deal is structured. It would just require me to wear more hats, and I don't want to create the corporate structures anymore. I don't want to find the insurance company. I don't want to find my boots on the ground, look through hundreds of properties through realtor portals, conversations with wholesalers. It's a lot of work. And that would lead me to the biggest mistake I think I actually see capital raisers do, is that they wear all these hats. When I see someone wearing all those hats, I'm just like, damn, man, that's a lot of work. And are you really the best person to do all those things? Really? How much attention can you put into, finding the best insurance policy, finding the best contractor, finding the best, materials, like there's so many things, evicting that tenant. Like, do you really have time to do all that? So that's a huge red flag, a huge mistake people make when when raising capital is they're wearing all the hats. But if you're just doing a conversion or a duplex like I did, you kind of have to wear all the hats because, as I mentioned, the economies of scale don't allow you to hire out all those things. It's got to be you. So a lot of things to consider when picking an investment.
For sure there are. For sure there are. That's a great answer. And actually, you touched on the next one I had, and that was talking about the different types of corporate structures you prefer, and how you look at your deals, right? So if you're buying a 20-plex in Canada somewhere, and maybe out west, how would you structure that versus what you're doing in the States? Tell me about your corporate structure and your business approach. I'm asking a lot of deep questions that are going to require way more than 30 minutes.
No problem, man. No, I'll do this real quick. So buckle up and pay attention. If I'm going to buy a 12 unit in Canada, first thing I'm going to do, assuming the numbers are good, everything looks great, is I'm going to lock it up. I'm going to put in a deposit. I'm going to lock it up. At that point, I'm going to get an appraisal. I'm going to get a home inspection, and I'm going to create a corporation. In that process, in that time as well, I need to find who my money partners are. So now I'm going to start my capital raise. I'm going to ask for a 3-month close, 2 months for subjects, and then a 1-month close. So I got 2 months for conditions, and I got 2 months to find my money partners. I need to find my money partners. They're probably coming in as corporations. They're going to be a shareholder in that operating company that's purchasing that building. So at the beginning, my name, it says Nick Skalkos, but it says Nick Skalkos and or transferee or something like that. Basically, it allows me to transfer the name. So once I got all my money partners on board, I know what the corporation is going to be called. It's probably a numbered company or just named after the street. I changed the name before closing so that the title has the name of the corporation. The bank's got all the information from everyone. They're going to want to talk to everyone to make sure we all have enough collateral, as I was mentioning earlier. And then assuming everything goes great, we close the property, and it's as simple as that. So how I split it, it all depends on a variety of different factors. We can just use a 50-50 split to keep it simple, where the financial partners will have a 50% equity, and then my team and I will have another 50% equity, and we have a shareholders agreement. And I'll walk through the lawyer with the shareholders agreement. Everyone will sign the agreement. In the event of a dispute, everything is there. And what this does is it protects everyone. And we also it allows for another layer of protection, right? Because you have a corporation, and then you've got a corporation, and then you've got your investors, rather than just me and you, Steve, going in and buying something under our own personal names, right? So there's some tax implications there as well, but they're not as lucrative as the limited partnership and general partnership structure, which is what I would do for a larger building. So what we've done in the States is we've got a general partnership, limited partnership. Our Canadians are investing in that Canadian limited partnership. And then what we do is we mirror that on the US side. So we have the exact same thing on the US side. And then that owns another corporation that owns the property. So then what the GPLP does is it's actually a tax flow through. So it allows for that depreciation, and your accountant will know how to work with that, and they can offset that depreciation with any income you're bringing in, which is one reason why wealthy people like the limited partnership structure. Another reason is that it limits their liability as well. So Steve, if you invest with me in one of my projects in Texas, you invest $100,000, that's all you could lose, is that 100,000. That's it. But if you invest with me in a 12 unit in Canada, that's not all you could lose. We could lose a lot more. The roof might come down. The boilers might explode. All the balconies need to be redone. And all of a sudden, we have something called a cash call. Cash call is you bring 50%, I bring 50%. We need to fix this kind of thing. So there is less liability in a limited partnership than there is in a JV agreement. But you just got to weigh it out, because for a 12 unit or even a 20 unit in Canada, is it worth creating a general partnership, limited partnership? Might not. I think a JV would be suffice, in most cases. But when you're dealing with a 144 unit in Houston, yeah, you want to, structure it this way. And the reason why we structured it this way is primarily to avoid Canadians having to file US tax filings with the IRS. So we handle all of that. So by the time our investors get their returns, they don't have to deal with any of that. They just give their accountant the T5013 form or whatever it is, and that's it. So even though our investors are invested in American real estate, they don't need to report to the IRS. So I hope that explained how I would structure things in Canada and how I would structure things in the States and the differences between those two structures.
Beautiful, beautiful. Nick, I've got one more question for you before we wrap up. I'd like to talk to you about your why. I'd like to understand why are you doing what you're doing now that you've reached this point? I mean, you're very successful in what you do. You've got an established career as a musician. You've got you're well established in the hierarchy at Keyspire and Wealth Genius. You're a coach, a strategist. You're crafting these magical deals and making other people rich in the course of this. Why do you keep on going? What is it that's moving you forward? Where are you going to? And how are you going to know when you get there?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm never going to get there, Steve. I'll tell you that. I don't feel successful, and I feel like I'm not where I need to be. And I think it's important to share that because I don't think anyone will ever feel that they're where they need to be, or they'll ever know when they're there. Because I don't think there exists. I think it's a process, and that process is what there is. Like this process is it. The journey is it. And for me, I want Sarah and I to be jobless. I don't want us to have jobs. I want us waking up on our own time. I want us working out as long as we want to without any obligations. I don't want to ever feel like I need to get employment to cover my cost of living. And I want to spend our days being creative. I'm a musician. I love creating. When I create something, I feel like I'm creating an energy, man. It's wild. And I learn more about myself when I do that. So I'm dedicated to providing me and Sarah enough time to be bored, to have the space to say, hey, like, what am I capable of here? What are my capabilities of? Is there anything I can do to surprise myself, learn more about myself? And for me, that's music and that's creating. And I need that. So for me, it's just about designing my day. And that's why I started investing in real estate. Things really did pick up though for me when I started to get more into animal rights activism. I started exposing myself to the cruelty that farmed animals go through on the farms during the transport, during the slaughter process. And these animals, man, they're loving animals. They want to be loved. They're smart, they're intelligent, and it's just very unfortunate that what's happening here. And I want to bring more awareness to animal cruelty. I want to point out that, we all have a part to play in this. I want to encourage people to eat more plant-based diets for health or for environment. For me, it's all about the animals and the ethical aspect of it. It's so I every day I expose myself to some really harsh shit just to remind myself, why I'm doing this. And when I used to go out to protests and I would witness pigs in the back of slaughter trucks and I would witness their conditions, and it was really horrifying what I saw in there. And once I started going to these events, my real estate business really picked up, man. Like that's when things really started to scale. So there was a correlation there because like I went from just wanting the freedom, financial freedom, wanting to do things with my day to being like, oh shit, like I got to do something, and these people standing out protesting, they're just single moms, like not making a lot of money, so I just started with buying them coffee and thanking them for being there and taking the time to do that. Then I just started with buying their signs and stuff like that because I was out there holding signs with them as people are driving by and giving me the finger, because when you people just don't want to hear this stuff that I'm talking about right now. People don't want to hear this, and I get that. And I'm raising capital, I'm trying to be appealing, and then I'm talking about something that no one wants to hear. So for me, it's a tough balance to do that, but that's why I'm investing in real estate. I'm sorry, like I'm investing in real estate so that I can bring more awareness to this, convince people to leave cruelty off their plates, and do more for people that are trying to bring awareness to them, whether it's these organization groups, whether they're like highly organized or just a single person that's compelled to go out and do something. Whoever it is, I'm there to support them. If they've been arrested, they need a lawyer. I want to be there with cash for them. If there's an animal sanctuary that needs medical bills, like the help with medical bills, I want to help them with that. And when my business completely like tripled in size when my why changed. And it's important to have a strong why, because like I said, a lot of the shit that I've done defies logic. Anyone logical would be like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like I put in my own money for some of my own marketing, whereas a lot of people are just like, you need to create money, market it if there's money coming in. Like, but for me, it's like, no, that's not going to work because there is no money coming in. I got to sacrifice my own money. I got to do some market. Like there's a lot of things that just defy logic, right? And I learned this from being a musician, like just sleeping on floors and people's couches and stuff like that. Most people wouldn't do that stuff, but you got to want it real bad. And when your why is strong enough, that's when things really start to come together. So thank you for asking me about my why. I'm sure it's again it's a topic no one wants to hear about, but if you
No,
know,
it's good.
I'm passionate about that. So
It's good. It's good. I actually appreciate that more and more now, more and more. Um, Closing up. So, Nick, if people want to reach you, how should they go about doing that?
I got to tell you, Steve, I'm not an easy guy to get a hold of. You can try on social media and give me a message on Facebook, but I just yeah, I don't know, give it a shot. And yeah, you could try social media. It's just I'm just very protective about my time
Yeah,
lately. So I'm not just easily, readily available, but if you're watching this and you're just like, damn, I do want to talk to this guy, I will talk to you. Reach out to me on Facebook, give me a message,
perfect.
and we'll make it happen. Okay.
Perfect. I know that I've lucked out. You've answered the call when I rang the bell, so thank you so much.
Oh, well, you, my man, I'm so inspired by what you've been up to. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing. You've started this journey with so many other people that have not taken the next step, have not put themselves out there, have not stepped out of their comfort zone. You've done all of these things, and you're very consistent with it. So, super impressed, Steve. Honored to be a part of your journey, and if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And keep this up. This stuff's great.
My main man, Nick, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And that's a wrap, folks.